Creative cities are not boring and comfortable places. They are often edgy, innovative, constantly thriving places, ready to question the status quo and push for change. I guess we all have experience with an exposure to change. Perhaps we have been the subject to changes ourselves, whether we like them or not. Or we have been in a position where we have had to manage change. Change management is one of the job responsibilities of every manager, be it a top manager, a middle manager, a project manager. And for the city to be creative, it has to be ready to change. Well, there are different kinds of change. But if there is one thing that characterizes change in general, it is that no matter what we want to change, there will always be resistance to those changes. In this video, I present Džona Kotera's 8-step change management model to successfully plan and implement changes. The model itself was developed already in 1995, but the principles have remained relevant up to this day. We will go through these 8 important steps while keeping in mind that none of these points should be neglected in order to carry out changes effectively. The first step, sense of urgency. In the process of managing change, we know that people have resistance to change. Often people are not ready to go along with the change because they are afraid that it might lead to an unpleasant situation. It is believed that change is wanted for the sake of the change itself, and it is doubtful what benefits the change will bring. And of course, since making the change itself is a long-term, labor and energy-intensive process, is it worth the effort? In order to mitigate these issues from the very beginning, a clear setup should first be created as to why a change is needed at all. In other words, the need for a change should be explained to people. This sense of urgency is often highlighted through cities' creative vision and collaborative process. The second step, creating a coalition. If we have managed to create a common understanding, a vision among our key stakeholder groups or the wider population that we have a shared problem, a challenge which we are going to solve, we should not immediately rush to all the people and expect that everyone will start moving quickly towards your desired direction. Especially in a situation where no one knows exactly what will happen and what the content of the change will be. The second step should be to form a network or a coalition of supporters. It is a coalition of people, and they don't have to be many of them, but they could represent key people or organizations that would help the city to make changes and get the message out to their respective networks. Let's call it an advocates of the change who have understood the need for the change so that the process does not remain the obsession of only one person, a mayor or a head of the culture department, but the creative community in general. Third step, forming a clear and inspiring vision. When people understand that we have a shared challenge and we have the people who are ready to contribute to the process, the third step is to formulate a vision. A vision should be a clearest possible description or visualization of the situation that awaits us as a community or as a city when we have successfully implemented the change. This vision actually begins to feed the process of change for which people are ready to contribute their time, resources and nerves to the implementation of the change. Aim for a clear, concrete and sufficiently motivating vision of what the end result could be for the people and for the city. Fourth step, broad engagement. Now, it is the time to involve as many people as possible. Involve all stakeholders, from public and private sector, from institutions, NGOs and businesses, from universities, young and old, locals and visitors, people with opportunities and people without those opportunities. In particular, voluntary involvement should be encouraged. Now we have an articulated need. We have an initial group that is ready to lead the process. We have an articulated vision for the entire city, and we have communicated the vision to as many people as possible in the city. Now we get to the fifth step. Removing the unnecessary obstacles. There may be things that prevent the implementation of change. That is, certain barriers. In order for implementation of the change to be as effective as possible, these barriers must be removed, or at least eased. If people are extremely overwhelmed and we ask them to perform additional tasks or contribute to the implementation of the change, they will not be able to do this because they are overwhelmed with the normal tasks. Removing those barriers means that we free people from other tasks, for example, and ask them to focus specifically on making the change happen. We have a habit of punishing failure and mistakes, and there is always a lot of uncertainty in the change process. These tensions must be addressed. 6. Celebrate small victories. The sixth step is to keep in mind that the change is not one big thing. That we work, and suddenly everything is ready and that's it. The process of change usually consists of many small steps, which in turn contain many small victories and achievements. These small victories must be noticed, enabled, supported, and recognized. People should not feel as if they work for months, half a year, or a whole year, but there is no end in sight, and people are already tired. Fortunately, change processes often involve those middle steps, these small steps. Let's boldly highlight them, give people a little pat on the back, and say we're moving in the right direction. 7th step, maintain focus. The problem with change management is that many changes are very long-term. Even if in the initial phase, people are very enthusiastic and they have understood the common vision, over time this enthusiasm and the pace of implementing the change subsides. People get tired. Often things come up and fires have to be put out. The 7th step in this model is a call to keep up the pace. Even if the first steps are taken and they are successful, the focus must not be lost. The message must be clear. We have a final goal. We must contribute to this process until we have achieved the originally formulated result. Number 8, the last step, implementation of the change. When we have reached the point in our change implementation process where all the previous steps have been taken, we can say that we have implemented the change. People have tendency to go back to the situation before the change due to inertia. So it is important to implement, to institutionalize, and to introduce the results of the implemented change into the behavioral models of people, work procedures, strategies, and other documents. And more importantly, the results of the change must be linked to the organizational culture. It must be clearly emphasized that the situation after the change is not one time or temporary, but it is now the way we do our work, the way we do things in our creative city. Good luck with the changes.